I don't care whether something comes from the left or the right. I just look at the idea and judge it on its own merit.
I mean, that's true, but I mean,
I know, how terrible, right?
Judge it on its own merit. Oh yeah,
Do
they're
you
not
think he's
in favor of meritocracy either.
No. Do you think he's going to be able to debunk this this idea properly?
No, of course not.
Okay.
Here, the tricky centrist thinks he's gotten us.
The tricky. Oh, look at that.
Them tricksy centrists. Can't trust them tricksy centrists. No.
Well, we're not
precious.
we're not over here grooming children, so we got that going for us.
We couldn't possibly disagree with the idea of sensibly considering multiple options and forming an opinion based on rational cost and benefit analyses. And he's right, but at the end of the day, centrism falls right back into the same place, whether it sees its role as forming an opinion-based idea and judge
You
it
just said a
on
bunch
its
of
own
words,
merit.
I know.
and I couldn't even track anything.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
Here, the tricky centrist thinks he's gotten us. We couldn't possibly disagree with the idea of sensibly considering multiple options and forming an opinion based on rational cost and benefit analyses. And
Okay, so what he said, yeah, I was distracted by the picture, which has nothing to do with what he just said
Right, yeah.
whatsoever. Okay, so what he said is, yes, you should look at each things independently and try to judge them on their merits.
Well, he's making fun of us because that's like the smart
Yeah, but-
thing to do.
Right, but he has to concede that.
and he's right.
See, he's right.
He's right. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, okay. But then he has a visual image that
Mm.
completely contradicts what he just said,
Right.
which is there's only two choices, healthcare or murder poor people.
Yeah, no.
But at the end of the day, centrism falls right back into the same place whether it sees its role as averaging out the left and the right, or picking and choosing from each side. And
So we fall back into the same place, whether or not we're trying to split the
I don't-
baby or picking and choosing from either side.
How does that contradict the statement that people in the center or centrists or even moderates want to look at each issue independently? He didn't explain why that statement is wrong.
Yeah, I know.
He said it made no sense. He said, well, you just fall back down to an average. Like, well, people have average differences of opinions of things. What does that have to do with anything?
Well, and those are two very different modus operandi.
Right.
You can't always split the baby. Splitting the baby's not always. Like, what are you going to do? We can have
Sure.
CRT in half the schools.
Well, yeah, obviously. But that's the straw man of being a moderate.
Yeah.
And that's because the Overton window is so small and so skewed in the US.
See, and this is just a non sequitur for me. I mean, I pre-watched this video and it was very just silly.
Well, he's not, he doesn't even make the argument. He tries to steelman centrist. And he does give the position, which he mocks, but then he says they're wrong because, and then there's no because after that. He just says they're wrong because,
Right. ...
Well,
he does
moving
say
on.
because of
It's
the
like, well, wait a
Overton
minute.
window.
They're wrong because the Overton window. It's like, they're wrong because averages. Like, what the fuck does that mean?
It doesn't. Yeah.
The choices centrists make are limited by the acceptable politics they are contextualized in, and the American political spectrum being so stunted toward the right with only figures like Bernie Sanders and his social democratic.
So he's saying the centrists can only choose between the right wing because all the candidates are right wing.
Right. But again,
Which,
this is
I mean-
what I said earlier, where it's really stupid people on the left look at only economic policy and ignore social policy. And really stupid people on the right only look at social policy and ignore economic policy.
Yeah.
And they say, oh, well, we're just moving in one direction, guys.
Ouch.
Politics even approaching the left means that centrism will by default fall.
Was there a candidate in 2016 on the Republican Party that dared to come out as being against gay marriage?
No, I don't think there was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come on, that's your tradition now.
And you had,
Tolerance
like-
is the tradition of America already, so
Right.
you're halfway there.
Right.
fall into the conservative, stagnatory, or even regressive role. There just aren't that many options to choose from, and they're mostly on the same side anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I love this clip. You have Trump doing the Trump thing. You have Marco Rubio freaking out, and then Ted Cruz just like looking on, like slinking into the background, like don't look at me.
Yeah.
It's like the perfect visual metaphor for the 2016
God,
primary.
I can't wait for 2024. This is going to be a blast.
It's gonna be awful. You're so wrong.
It's going to be a
It'd be
blast.
It'd be terrible.
Sitch, don't jinx it for me.
You'll see it's gonna be
I
awful.
love politics.
Oh my
God, it's
God.
so exciting.
It's gonna be the worst.
People are going to lose their minds again.
I know. It's gonna be awful.
Even if the voter is a careful and considerate pragmatist who doesn't blindly follow the party line and thinks entirely for themselves on every topic and political debate, the inevitable fact that they will be picking and choosing policies from the fascistic Trumpism in the Republican Party and the neoliberal capitalism of the Democrats, to the extent that they can even be differentiated at times, means they'll never actually consider the full range of political debate because the left isn't prominently represented.
So there you go.
That's such a fucking lie, though.
Yeah. But wait a minute.
Well, I mean, you can consider the full range of political debate. You may not have options voting for them, but I mean, it's not like you can't study communism or study the history of communism, or I mean, all that stuff you can look at and consider those policy prescriptions.
I don't know what Republican candidate ran on openly fascistic policies. I don't know what he's fucking talking about. Okay. Do you think like wanting to limit immigration means you're openly fascist?
Yes, he does. That's what he thinks. Yeah.
Right. That's a very liberal interpretation. I don't mean like it's a very like moderate interpretation of fascism. How far has our society progressed when we go from fucking murder people fascism to I want to limit immigration to being fascist, right?
Yeah.
How much progress have we made that's what's considered fascism now?
I was surprised to hear Carl accepted the radical left framing on Trump's Muslim ban. There was a bunch of people in the comments on that video saying, scoffing at that characterization of the ban.
Right.
Because it was like countries that were harboring terrorists.
Right.
That just so happened to be Muslim. So
right.
A lot of the people on the right were like, no, it wasn't a race thing. It was a terrorism thing.
Of course. Well, religion thing, I guess, really more than a race thing. But
yeah.
But no, but if this guy thinks that these wackadoodle leftist policies are so popular, he's so in favor of democracy, if only people could vote, they would all vote for the crazy shit that he wants. Why are none of these policies represented in America by any political candidate?
Because they don't have the votes. They don't have the voting blocks.
No, but he doesn't believe that. That's why I'm saying these people's world theory makes no sense, because they keep saying we're in favor of democracy, and yet they don't believe any candidate actually represents what they want.
Right.
And if
which
all
is
these
a
people
failure of democracy.
Right. If all these people were running out in the streets wanting to vote for his crazy leftist shit, there would be a candidate that would represent that, and people would vote for them.
True.
The result is the center conserves far more than it progresses. And when it chooses to conserve something built by the right, it actively engages in regressive, reactionary politics.
The center conserves far more than it progresses. Well, I mean,
it's funny because the far right people just say the opposite. They say literally the opposite. The center just slows down the change, but they don't stop it. The center lets the progress keep going.
The center lets progress spin out of control more than it helps stop it. Yeah, that's exactly what they'll say.
It's so dumb.
Yeah. The center's not helping.
I know.
We need to help. We need to lock these people up.
You there, turn off your brain.
Become an NPC, put on this hat and join our team. Mindlessly repeat everything that we say. Have only the opinions that are pre-approved by our party. How dare you have independent thoughts? How dare you try to look at things from an independent lens? Don't you know this is a team battle out here? Put on your uniform and pick up your rifle and shoot the bad man in the opposite color.
What's super sad is once we finally do pick a side, we do have people on our side that are only on our side because that's their team is on this side. Like they don't have any of the reasoning why they're on this side that we have.
Sure, of course.
Yeah. They can't even articulate that reasoning. It's very disappointing.
Yeah.
Also, the issue that politicians who call themselves the center aren't really doing so in good faith. While they may represent the center.
You bad faith liar, Sitch.
Mm-hmm.
God, you bad.
I'm not a politician.
You bad faith liar.
Listen, I'm not a witch.
Oh yeah.
I'm not a politician.
It's only the politicians that are bad faith centrists?
I guess. That's what he said.
All of these people are woke motherfuckers. I don't care what he says.
Center between elected officials. The actual center of the American people is far more to the left on many key issues than the center of the American political class.
Drag queen story time. Giving hormone blockers to children.
Why can't, if this is so true, why can't they ever get a candidate?
Yeah. Because the corporations are standing in the way. You got to understand.
The evil corporation. So are they,
do
they think that there was election fraud? Is that what's happened? You know, all these people in all these states ran out to vote for Bernie Sanders, but then the evil corporations just changed all the votes to be Joe Biden or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was that what they think happened?
You guessed it.
Okay.
Just look at this clip featuring celebrity centrist Joe Lieberman.
Oh, God. I'm not a centrist anymore, guys. Droopy Dog Lieberman?
No one likes Joe Lieberman.
Joe Lieberman's a piece of shit, okay?
I know.
He authored a book called The Centrist Solution.
How dare he?
I don't think I could read a book by Joe Lieberman. I don't think I could stomach that. Remember when Joe Lieberman was going to be president? Wasn't he...
Vice president.
He was Al Gore's vice president.
He was Gore's vice president, yeah.
Right. What an idiot. Gore. That's the worst mistake you've ever made.
I know. That was a terrible choice.
He just sounds...
That was a baffling choice. I don't know what was up with that.
Your new book is called The Centrist Solution.
Well, actually, no, maybe, you know what it probably was?
Mm-hmm.
It was, we forget. The 2000 election was right on the heels of Monica Lewinsky's scandal.
Oh, yeah.
So Joe Lieberman was like Donald Trump's Mike Pence. He's like, I need a conservative type who, you know.
I need a guy that no intern would ever throw themselves at. I need someone.
I need an old conservative type guy who no one's afraid will, you know, do something crazy.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. So maybe it was a great pick.
Maybe.
You were a famous quote-unquote centrist senator. And yet my issue with that word is that centrist doesn't necessarily reflect the American people's views. I want to pull up some polling. Here are some of the measures in that Build Back Better bill that quote-unquote centrists like Manchin and Sinema want to get rid of. Here's how popular they are. Hugely popular across the spectrum. 83% support, 84% support, 73%.
So there's two things of why this is stupid. Okay. Mm-hmm. First of all, it's the thing I've said a million times. If all these things are so popular, why the fuck can they not get candidates elected who do these very popular things?
Yeah.
It should be so simple, right? So simple, right? And then the second thing why all these polls are so stupid is that everyone will say like, oh, I support this. I support free community college, right?
Mm-hmm. Paid family leave.
I support expanding Medicare, right? It's like, okay, how are you going to pay for it?
Tax hikes on the wealthy. It says right there. The wealthy people are going to pay for it.
What does that mean exactly? Like, that's the problem, is that whenever you do these pollings and you start breaking things down more specifically, no one fucking agrees on the specifics at all. How any of these things should function.
I'm all for Jeff Bezos paying for my kids' college.
Right.
I just also, a huge part of this is they're missing. I mean, I'm sure there are plenty of popular conservative positions where the support is very high as well.
Yes, right.
That are not on this list.
Notice there's no immigration questions here.
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing about drag queen story time on this.
Slow
poll.
down, slow down immigration probably has
Right.
a lot of like in the 68% support range. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably
No, it's a great
like
point.
the death penalty always scores high. It's always in,
More
like,
police
80s.
that's a great one for
More-
Mr. Fascistic president. More, the overwhelming majority of people want more police, not less.
More police funding would be on here. Yeah.
Harder crime.
So that's a
What about
huge,
sex and gender distinctions?
that's a huge
Yes.
fail on the
Right.
asker's part, because if you include all those on here, his question doesn't even make sense. There's all these different policy prescriptions that are hugely popular all over the political spectrum. So why would centrists be a thing? Well, because there are all these different policies that are hugely popular all over the political spectrum. That's why.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That proves the point.